Okay, so this is the Pixlr website. What you want to do when you get here is select to open the editor, and then from this set of choices here you want to choose the first one. That's to create a new image, and that starts with a blank image. And then for the first assignment you want to be in the realm of 1200 by 600. You can either click the down arrow and move the slider to get to 1200, which is sometimes difficult, so you can also just type in the numbers that you want there. So 1200 by 600 for the dimensions, and you can give it a title. And then away you go. It creates the blank canvas for you. On the right hand side you get a navigator window, the all-important layers palette over here, and then history. I normally don't make much use of the history palette, so you can also sort of organize the workspace a little bit. On the left hand side is the basic toolbar, which will be very similar to toolbars you will see in pretty much any image editing program. So again, this is an online or cloud-based app, but it's very much modeled on traditional image editors like Photoshop. So what you're doing then is you're creating first in this one a kind of side-by-side simultaneity composition. So you have two photos and you're going to put them one on one side, one on the other, just next to each other. So the easiest way to add a photo to a project is to go to the layer menu and then select open image as layer. So that's going to open one of your images, and it's also going to put it right into the image file. So you basically select that one and then you pick your image. So I'm just going to pick here a couple of things out of a folder of mine for the purpose of the demonstration. And then you can notice over here in the navigator you can change the scale here of how it's viewed, right? So you can zoom in, zoom out. You want to make it so that it's workable. In this case I'm going to have to change it more than that though, so that it'll fit on half of the screen. And then you notice in the layers panel you have a background layer. By default it's just the white background, and then the next layer is the one I just added. So what I'm going to need to do with this new layer, I'm going to select it, then I'm going to go to the edit menu and I'm going to select free transform. So that gives me image handles, right? So I need to make this image quite a bit smaller. So I'm up here in the upper right hand corner. I'm going to click where it's a diagonal double arrow, and then I'm going to make that picture much smaller so that it'll fit pretty much, at least part of it will fit in half of the screen. So I'm doing that, then I'm kind of moving it, and then I may be resizing it some more to get it down again to that pretty much half of a screen. And you know, for this purpose that's close enough for now, roughly 600 by 600 pixel area, and I still have my other blank area for my second image. So when I click somewhere it's going to ask me, do I want to apply these changes? I say yes, and then I'm halfway there pretty much, and then I go back to the layer menu and select open image as layer, and I'll pick my second image and open it, and see, this one's going to be quite a bit closer in size. So I can pretty much, let's see, I need to click, oh, and in the tool area over here you'll see that the move tool is the one on the right hand side at the top. So it's when you click the move tool here first that you can then move the image. So like so. This would be my second image. So I'm just going to go ahead and position that like so. And I won't do any resizing on that one just to save you saw that process last time. Then that would be pretty much it. Supposing that's my composition, then I would be ready to save. And so I'd go to the File menu, and I would want to save this in two different file formats. This is very important. You go to File, select Save, and then initially it's going to default to saving it as a JPEG, and that's good. So you want to go ahead and, what I usually do is put the quality level up to the top. These are not huge photos, they won't be huge files. Put it up to the top, has a title, it's oriented to save to my computer, saying OK. I'm going to save it to a folder, and I'm going to change that name actually. and then I'm going to save that. So now I've saved it as a JPEG. The JPEG is the one that can be posted to Facebook. You also want to save a file, same object here. We're saving it in a different way. I'm going to go back to the File menu, select Save. And I'm going to save it this time under the Format options. I'm going to select PXD, which is a layered Pixlr image. That's really important because if I want to reopen and rework this file at a later date, the JPEG will be useless to me. The only one I can sort of rework and still maintain my separate layers and such is the Pixlr file. So I'm going to save it by that name, and I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to save a copy. Notice that that one's got the different file extension. Instead of JPG, it's got PXD. So I'm going to save that too. Now I'm good to go. If I want to reopen this file and rework it, add more layers, subtract layers, I can do that by opening the PXD file. If I want to upload something and share it on the web, like whether it's a blog or a website or in Facebook, it's the JPEG, the one that will work. So that's the first assignment. Now I'm just going to go ahead and quickly go through the second one. So the second one is like this. You would create a new image. This time we want 600 by 600. And this one actually should have been called double exposure. So I'll put that title back in. It doesn't matter that you title it that. I'm just giving it a title. Then you click OK. So you have the smaller window here. I'm going to go ahead and close this window in the back. And yes, I've saved it. Okay, and see if it makes me do that again. That's okay. Do that. Okay. Run through those steps and then it closes. Okay, so there's the 600 by 600 one there. I'm going to do basically the same process, slightly altered. So I'm going to basically go to the layer menu. I'm going to open an image as a layer, select my first image again, and there it is. Okay, so I pretty much would need to do the same resizing, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to go ahead and position this here just so I can show you the effect we're after on the second one. So that's the first image. Second one, going to go back to the layer menu, select open image as layer, select my second image, click open, and in this case I am going to change the size so that it stretches all the way across the 600 pixels. So I go to the edit menu and I select free transform. That gives me the handles. Now instead of making it smaller, I'm going to stretch it this way so it gets larger. When I click anywhere on the screen, it asks me, do I want to apply the changes? I say yes. Okay, so now I've got two images, one on top of the other. You can see the way the layers are arranged in the layers palette. This layer on top is going to be in the foreground, the next one down in the background, but right now you can't see that second layer because it's totally occluded by the one at the top. So what I'm going to do is click that top layer, and then in the bottom left of the layers palette or layers window, you see this little button here that's toggle layer settings. So you click that once and you get an opacity slider. So as I'm moving the opacity slider to the left, that top layer is getting transparent. So I can then begin to see like both layers at the same time, and that's the idea here. So if I moved it all the way over, I would see only one. If I move it all the way over, I see the other way. So you try to pick a level in between where the two images are pretty much merged, or pretty much turning one image layer into the same level of transparency or opacity as the other, and that brings them into a kind of balance. So that's the second one. So basically what we're looking at here is two different ways of exploring the concept of simultaneity, two things happening at the same time side by side, or one thing happening, or excuse me, two things happening again but in a layered fashion, or overlay or double exposure. So those are some things that may or may not be in the longer tutorial that will be helpful hopefully to you in terms of completing this particular assignment.